What happens when the story you're afraid to tell becomes the story someone else needs to hear? For many of us, the emotions we carry are not always easy to explain. Grief, guilt, depression, the pressure to appear strong when something inside us is hurting. Sometimes we remain silent because we don't have the words. And sometimes someone creates a story that helps us find them. My guest today is filmmaker Tommy Pepper. At just 18 years old, Tommy transformed deeply personal experiences with grief, family, mental health, and his Vietnamese American identity into an award-winning short film called Happy Thoughts. But this conversation is about more than the making of a film. It's about the experiences that shaped Tommy, the courage it took to tell an honest story, and what he discovered about himself along the way. Inspired by the loss of his uncle to suicide, Tommy created a story that explores not only pain, but also healing, connection, and the hope that even our hardest experiences can shape who we are becoming. Every person is on their own journey. Every journey has the power to change who we are becoming. I'm Rachel, and this is Journeys, a podcast by Radiant Grace Productions. This is Tommy's journey. Thank you for being on the show today, Tommy. Will you tell us a little bit about Happy Thoughts for those who might be hearing about the film for the first time today?
Yeah, super excited to be on the podcast. Happy Thoughts is a short film about Vietnamese American mental health, and it gets shown through this narrative of a 18-year-old Vietnamese American boy who is a three-time state speech and debate champion, and he goes to nationals for the first time during his senior year. And the film is displayed through past and present, so we're living in the present time, but there's a lot of flashbacks. And in all the flashbacks, it goes to this party where him and his brother is having a fun time, a family party. And then in the present, it's him at nationals getting ready to go up on stage. And at the past, there's this party and they're having a bunch of fun. And then everything kind of goes bad because Ty, the main character, he kind of like pushes everyone to drink because it's part of the culture. Where Tony is a 14-year-old boy who's on antidepressants, and he obviously cannot drink that much because A, he's 14, but B, you can't drink on antidepressants. And he drinks and he throws up, and the past ends there, where they have this huge argument of why did you let him drink? It shifts the blame on Ty. And then in present tense, Ty's biggest competitor goes up on stage and she competes, and her speech is about suicide. It forces Ty to finally face reality. It tells us as the audience that Tony, the younger brother, has been dead this entire time because he took his own life. And it forces Ty to open up to their mom, of where he finally expresses his guilt, his shame, his anger of Tony, of him taking his own life. And it's pretty much a metaphor and message to Vietnamese Americans, or overall Asian Americans, to please express your feelings, because you can run from them as much as you want. But the truth is that eventually down the line, it's going to hurt you 10 times more than experiencing the pain in the moment.
Do you want to tell us about how the story came to be in existence? Like what was happening in your life, or what made you feel like you needed to tell or to share this story?
I made this film in 2025, and around 2023, I believe, my uncle, Anthony Dang, he unfortunately lost his life to suicide. That was during my second semester junior year of high school.
Wow.
And I remember telling my counselor kind of just dropping it out of random, like, "Hey, my uncle just died," and it became kind of like a pattern of where my uncle's loss became very almost neutral to me, and I thought that's just how it was. And I started going to therapy more, or I started therapy later that year, and I realized that that was not how I was actually feeling, but it was just a survival mechanism that I was doing unconsciously, where my brain would just kind of throw away the feeling and I was numb. And it led to a lot of things. I lost my friend group in my senior year of high school because I was acting pretty rash, and I started to lash out more and I started to lie more. And I became a dishonest person in my
Mhm.
life. And it took me losing my friend group, which I'm not saying is 100% my fault. I think there was obviously, I think an issue is a problem is like a bunch of different departments going wrong. But I definitely played a huge part of it because I wasn't emotionally stable and I wasn't acknowledging that either. So it took me losing my friend group and going to therapy to make me realize and I kind of hit this reset point in my life where I was like, I'm constantly lying to people I love. I'm not being honest with how I'm feeling, and I'm really depressed right now. And at the same time is when the thought of doing film introduced itself to me through YouTube Shorts or
Mm.
YouTube like short films. Um, and I started watching YouTube short film, and I was like, man, this is awesome. It's like I want to do that. And then I tried to create content online, and I was like, dude, this content stuff is hard. I was like, man, I wish I could just spend more time doing one project, but just really putting everything I have into it. And that's when I discovered film. And so I made this documentary about asking yourself who you are, but without your name, without your religion, without your job title, without your passions, just who you are as a person without labels. Joined Spy Hop's capstone class called
Mm.
PitchNic. And PitchNic is a class where 15 students join and we all compete against each other via scripts or documentary ideas. And the top two fiction and top two nonfiction ideas get picked to be funded. And it was the first script I ever written. And luckily, I was picked for funding. So I got funded 2,500, and then I worked with local Vietnamese businesses to get another 2,300 of funding. So that was like my super lucky break into film, where my first short film, the overall budget was 5,300, along with free equipment, free crew, and then I got to try my best to pay my actors because I wanted my film to be as ethical as possible, but
Mhm.
try to pay my actors as well as possible.
As you're casting, what kind of things were you looking for? Was it more like the emotion? Because this is very emotional film. So as you were casting, what what I'm gonna say characteristics. I don't know if that's the right word. What made you say these are the right people?
When I was writing the short film, my oldest brother, Will, he's a LA comedian, but he's
Mhm.
also learning acting. And I always envisioned him in the role. Like I wrote the role for him.
Mhm.
A lot of the lines in his dialogue are literally just things he says. So Will, my older brother, is also the older brother and the main character in the film, Ty. And then Liam is Tony, which is Ty's younger brother. And so Ty says to Tony like, "Oh, you really gonna let your older brother drink alone?" And that's just something that Will really says. It's not really like any pressure or anything like that, but it's just like a funny joke he says. So like I have to write that in the dialogue.
Mm.
Will was already going to play Ty. I already knew it. I didn't cast for Ty, but I for Tony and the mom, I had no idea who I was gonna get for that. So I sent out the casting calls for the mom specifically. It was kind of perfect because her kids acted in our proof of concept film,
Mhm.
and she was reading out the mom lines, and I was like, you know what? She got some. I was like, wait, can she just play the mom in the real thing? And then she auditioned, and I was like, this is great. I already like her. Like, let's get her in. And for Tony, we got a couple auditions, but they didn't really fit the part in terms of like A, they weren't Asian at all, or B, emotionally they just weren't hitting it. And it got to a point where I was like, okay, you know what? Even though visually Liam doesn't fit, he just emotionally conveys it so much better and so much more authentic, where we can adapt the script around Liam. Originally in the script, it was two brothers, and in the adapted film version, if anybody asks, they're adopted brothers, which is why in the film there's like a line where it's like, I appreciate you and your mom for everything you've done for me,
Mhm.
because we had to address it but not directly. It fit the role even better, and Liam not visually fitting made me a better filmmaker because it allowed me to adapt around the issue,
Mhm.
and it gave me a reason to be like, oh, already in the film, Tony, Liam's character, doesn't fit in the world that he's in. And
Mhm.
that's why he feels the need to take his own life,
Yeah.
because he feels lost. So now we can visually back that because he's physically out of place now in this adopted family. Additionally, with not being able to fit in the culture, not being able to fit in the people, and it adds on to more of that theme, which was a blessing in disguise.
When you think about the conversations that were happening, what mattered most to you as you were telling this story? What were those relationships that you wanted to convey the most?
I wanted to convey Ty and the mom. That's definitely the number one relationship I wanted to relay. Because as much as I want the film to show off Tony more, the truth is that the story is not about Tony. If I made the film about Tony, the film would be a completely different film.
Yeah.
And I accepted that while I was making it and redrafting and rewriting. Tony is not the main character. Even though he is the main reason of why everything happens,
Mhm.
I wanted to make the film about Ty, the main character, where he he's just a kid who lost his younger brother, and the only thing he knows or he thinks he knows how to do is speak well and win competitions.
Mhm.
And that relationship with himself and being like, I'm I'm this great communicator, I'm this great speaker. But the truth of it is that he distracts himself through these competitions, and he's been running away his entire time, and then he gets caught accidentally. Where in the film, Sadiga, his debate competition, they never actually speak to each other. They never meet in the film
Mhm.
because I wanted to show how common of a topic suicide is. It's like guilt comes up in the most random ways, and to think that you would find guilt at a debate competition is the least expected thing. So that's why they never met. But going back to the question, Vietnamese moms don't really tell the kid what's wrong, or it's the opposite where they tell the kid what's wrong, but they don't do anything to fix it.
Uh-huh.
And so now it's just this constant nagging from the mom where it's like, oh, you're showing off this problem, but you're not doing anything to fix it. And that teaches a kid something. Now, I didn't really show that in the film, but what I did show in the film was the mom having this like emotional dissonance
Uh-huh.
and this lack of care. And you kind of look at the moms like, dang, why isn't the mom supporting Tony as much? Until the very end of the film, where they had this huge argument. Then finally the mom apologizes, and Ty finally lets out his feelings because even though this is extremely, extremely hard on the mom, she's gone through more life, and she's gone through more of her emotions and being able to understand them, versus Ty, who is this kid and his entire world is flipped upside down.
Why was it important for you to tell this story with this cultural awareness, but also being very respectful to your own culture?
So I'm Vietnamese American,
Uh-huh.
which is very different than being Vietnamese. So there was this guilt and shame when I was writing and directing it of like, uh, I'm not really Vietnamese. I'm Vietnamese American. And it was really hard for me to tell the culture. My Vietnamese is very bad. I can barely speak the language.
Uh-huh.
Um, which which I'm actually currently learning right now. I took Vietnamese class last semester, and I'm working hard to learn Vietnamese. And I'm going to Vietnam this summer,
Yeah, cool.
to really immerse myself and like really, really relearn the language because I used to speak as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as I wanted to show off the fun aspect of it because you can ask people who are experienced with a lot of different types of Asians,
Uh-huh.
but one thing about Vietnamese people that people always say is like Vietnamese people know how to party. Like they're really fun people, which is extraordinarily true. Vietnamese people party like I don't even know. I haven't seen anybody else like them, right? So like we're really fun, and that comes with this like huge shadow because it doesn't talk about what really happens in the community. And when my uncle died, there was this huge notion to be hush hush, to like not speak about it.
Oh,
And it kind of pissed me off, to be honest.
yeah.
And it made me really angry. And I was like, why can't I talk about it? Like why are we refusing to be in the reality of the world we're in? And so I made the film at first almost in spite of the culture, at least the one I grew up in. I can't
Oh,
speak for all Vietnamese households. I can't.
yeah.
So I made the film where like, listen, there's a lot of issues. So I really wanted to balance it like, oh, look at this fun party that's happening right now where everyone loves each other. But hey, when there's nothing going on and life is normal, what's happening in that moment? And that moment is like the lack of communication between family, the lack of mental health support, or even acknowledgement in the family, and maybe even sometimes not even a lack of acknowledgement, but too much of a negative acknowledgement, where it's like, what? You need to go to therapy? Are you weak? Are you crying? Are you weak? And that's just not right. Vietnamese people deserve to be happy, and we deserve to speak out about our feelings without being harassed or looked at negatively. Because I think every human deserves that.
Tommy, what do you hope people understand about this film that might not be obvious at first glance?
Yeah. So in the film, the past is seen as this huge party where everyone's drinking, everyone's having fun. And then in the present, it gets revealed that Tony's been gone this entire time. What I want people to notice is to enjoy the memories with your loved ones and then remember your happy thoughts of your friends and your family, and and to choose love instead of choosing what's so easy to choose, which is that anger and that hatred from someone love leaving your life. Because it's so easy to choose that emotion, and it's so easy to be upset for the rest of your life. But it's to make that choice to be like, hey, I'm going to choose love because love is so much more of a healthy emotion for us. And to remember your loved ones, to remember your love memories. I don't want people to go throughout their whole lives and thinking that even if they have a right to be angry, which is a lot of people. They have a right to be angry in life, to still choose to not be angry and to move on. Because if you spend your entire life angry, right, because someone wronged you, because life is unfair to you, you end up losing the gift of life.
How has this affected you personally? Like, what messages have you learned from it? Because you've been right in the middle of it with your uncle.
Yeah.
But you took your experiences, and you've mentioned that you've had your own struggles and your own battle with depression. You've taken these emotions and you've taken these feelings, but you've turned it into something beautiful, something good. What have you personally experienced, or the lessons that you've learned through this whole process?
I learned a lot when I was writing it in terms of I'll kind of break it down from pre-production to production to post-production to after the film, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, great. So pre-production, when I was writing the script, I learned to be fair of others. When I first wrote the script, I wrote the characters in a very unbalanced way, in a very angry way, because I was angry. I was pissed off. And it reflected very obviously in my writing. Will Pepper, my oldest brother, but also the main actor in the film, which is Ty, he read the script and he's like, it just seems like my character is just not a good person. It just seems like it's just all his fault, which is something I really wanted to avoid. And so I had to confront myself and be like, okay, I'm basing these characters off of real people in my life. Am I writing them fairly? Is it fair to put this much anger and negativity towards a person? Or am I just being upset? And so pre-production writing, it taught me to see people in a more holistic view.
Hmm.
Production taught me things are gonna change, but maybe for the best. There's some things production-wise where I was like, oh man, I wish it didn't go like that. And there's some things that happen where I was like, oh man, I cannot believe it went like that. Um, so I think production taught me like, hey, change isn't bad. And post-production taught me that as much help as you can get, as much people have supported you up until that point, post-production taught me that at the end of the day, you spend most of your time alone. I was in the editing bay for Happy Thoughts 10 hours a day alone. And like that was like 5 days out of the week I was doing that. For like 2 to 3 months of just 10-hour days alone, sitting in the editing bay. And then every couple hours out of those 10 hours, I would see like one person and I would have like a 10, 15-minute conversation with them. Boom, back to being in my own circle. You have to be honest with yourself. And you have to be okay with being by yourself. I know your friends and family love you. I know there's people out there that love you, but you have to love yourself because you're spending most of, no, not most time. You're spending every moment with you. So it's like, please enjoy it. What I've learned after post-production and after the film's been done is that it's okay to relearn your lessons. I'm submitting Happy Thoughts to festivals.
Mhm.
And so I'm rewatching Happy Thoughts and I'm doing some last second edits to get it underneath, just to get it where I like it more. And I'm like watching things and I'm reminiscing and I'm relearning lessons in life that I thought I learned last year. And then I realized like, hey, you're gonna sometimes take a couple steps back and maybe not a couple steps back, maybe you're gonna take a couple miles back. But that's okay. These past 2 months, I've really learned what it means to be alone. I've also learned that hey, I have people that love me. and I'm learning how to change. I'm learning how to be softer with my words. I'm learning how to be softer with myself, and I'm learning that just because it feels right does not mean it's right. And I'm relearning so many lessons right now. I think that's the biggest thing that I'm currently learning is that you don't know it all. And there's so much things to learn. And so I think right now I'm learning how to take steps back and be okay with it.
So let's talk about if someone is watching your film and they're struggling, what do you hope they walk away with knowing? I mean, we kind of touched a little bit on that. It's okay to have those feelings. It's okay. Like you said, it's okay to be angry and to be upset, but please reach out and get help.
Yeah, that's took the words right out of my mouth. The only thing I could possibly add to that is a lot more people are going through the same thing. And maybe there's some tweaks, obviously no one lives the same life, but like with Sadiqa, the antagonist, kind of coming in and her speech being about suicide, and that's what throws Ty off the track to win. And it's so much more common, and it will happen in the most random places when you realize that suicide is everywhere around you, and it's okay to be angry, but you really have to acknowledge your emotions because, hey, like I'm 19 years old right now. There's so much life for me to experience, but I've gone through a lot of hard points in my life, and I'm currently climbing out of a hard point in my life. And I'm realizing whether you like it or not, your life is going to get messed up, and you have to sit here. You have to acknowledge it because if you don't, maybe you survive this problem. Maybe you survive the next 5 problems. But what happens when the sixth one really just hurts you in a place where like you shatter? It's gonna be so much more heavy picking yourself back up. If I can choose right now to shatter and I still have therapy, I still have friends and family who love me, I still have film opportunities that where I can express my creativity, this is a good place to shatter because I have people who will help pick me up. So trusting in the environment is something I've learned very recently, where it's like, come on, shatter now and learn how to pick yourself up. So next time you can pick yourself up a little bit faster.
Also, when you shatter, you understand and you can empathize and you're more aware of people who are going through that process so that you can be that support for them.
Yeah, exactly.
If we go back to the movie, Ty can now understand somebody else. He can empathize because he lost someone. It's about him understanding that it's okay to move forward. You've got these emotions, you've got this guilt, you've got all these things, but it's moving forward. And you see that he's moving forward and he's building that relationship with his mom that he never had before. But now they've kind of become closer and they can now empathize and they can help and they can support one another.
Yeah, exactly. Beautifully said.
One of the great things about your movie, well, there's so many great things, but
Thank you.
I love it. I mean, it just brings so much awareness to what goes back to the culture and like opening up eyes and saying, it's okay. You can show your emotions. You can get help and please get help because we would rather be there to support you than not have you here with us. I like how you mentioned about how you're learning and you're growing because life is like that. I think your film gives hope and brings hope. That's the message. Keep holding on. Keep working on your problems. Keep communicating and talking about these things. And no matter what, choose to live. Choose to express your emotions. Choose to turn those negative thoughts into happy thoughts. And remember the good memories and the good times.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. This is all very true. Sometimes I'm a little afraid to say that because I'm like, everybody says it. And sometimes you hear it from people where it's like, okay, well, you're telling me this, but your actions don't show it.
Yeah.
It becomes kind of like a saturated saying that like everything you said was absolutely true. And it's to keep that hope. That's also something I'm learning right now where it's like everything will be okay. And it's hard to hold on to life. Sometimes you're like, man, I want to get up, but also this hurts really badly. Sometimes going through life is waking up early, going to the gym, eating right, and going home, and doing your work and going home. And sometimes getting up and brushing your teeth and going back to bed is how you get through life. And that's okay, but gotta keep going because the
Yeah.
next day something great might happen.
Agreed. Like sometimes I celebrate when I get out of my bed and I make it to my couch and I just collapse there and I'm like, I got out of bed. I did
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
because sometimes that's enough. And really, that is enough. As
Yeah.
long as you keep going and you keep living, changing, well, not changing, but accepting your emotions is so important.
Absolutely.
No matter if you're angry, no matter if you're numb, no matter what it is, acknowledge that, then build
Absolutely.
upon that. If you need help and you don't know how to get out of the darkness, find somebody that you can talk to and keep working on those good memories, those happy thoughts. It's been great talking to you, Tommy. I have loved having you. And if I didn't say this at first, Tommy is my very first guest, and I'm so glad that you're here.
Woohoo!
Woo! And I appreciate how you have taken the time to talk about suicide and depression and make this movie and tell your uncle's story with so much care. I think that's the thing that matters the most. The care and the concern that you've put into portraying this realistically in a way that honors your uncle and your family and your culture. I think it's just been beautiful.
Thank you so
So
much.
thank you so much for being on our show and come back anytime you want to. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been amazing. Like this has been thank you so much. I think this is actually my first like podcast I've really been on. So hey, two firsts.
As we come to the end of today's conversation, I keep coming back to something Tommy's film taught me. The film is called Happy Thoughts, but it's really about learning how to hold on to both grief and love at the same time. It's about remembering that healing doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending that the pain never happened. It means allowing ourselves to honor what we've lost while still embracing what remains. Tommy reminded us that our emotions are not something to fear or hide from. Sometimes the story we are afraid to tell becomes the story someone else needs to hear. And sometimes sharing that story changes us too. Tommy's journey also reminds us that we do not have to wait until we feel completely ready, qualified, or fearless before creating something meaningful. Sometimes we begin with the story that's already living inside us. And in finding the courage to share it, we may help someone else feel less alone. If you're struggling today, please remember that you do not have to carry everything alone. Reach out. Talk to someone. Ask for help. There is strength in allowing others to support you. If you would like to follow Tommy's filmmaking journey, you can find him on Instagram at Tommy Pepper Films. You can also continue the conversation and discover more behind this episode at RadiantGraceProductions.com. And remember, The most meaningful journeys aren't just about where we go. They're about what we discover along the way and who we become because of it.